Welcome back to Four Tires and Fuel. My name is Cole Cusimano.
And I'm Ashlyn Register, and on today's episode, we're going to give you a quick recap of the Folds of Honor Quiktrip 500 that happened in Atlanta and give our predictions for the Pennzoil 400 in Las Vegas.
This was our first official look at the new rules package that NASCAR mandated for the 2019 season, and we saw quite a few lead changes and quite a few cars actually maintain the lead as opposed to maybe some random 1 or 2 lap lead changes here and there. I thought we saw a lot of great racing with this new package. New downforce looks good. A lot of these cars are keeping up on the lead lap, keeping with the leader, and I think that's great for the sport and great to watch.
Some fans weren't as amused with the new package and the new rule force. They didn't like the slower racing in a sense because they could see the RPMs and the tires. There wasn't as many wrecks. There was really only 2 cautions compared to Daytona last week. But I think they're going to get used to the new rule packages. The drivers will get used to the new rule packages. And that I think NASCAR will become more eventful racing with the new packages because you can't really tell anything from the first race. So as it progresses throughout the season, I think that they'll figure out what works for them and what doesn't.
And also keep in mind that Atlanta is a very abrasive track on tire wear. So that's also something to think about. A lot of people actually think that Las Vegas is the quote-unquote official debut of the new rules package.
The green flag is out. That means we're going to recap the Folds of Honor Quiktrip 500.
Entering the race on February 24th for the Folds of Honor Quiktrip 500, there were quite a few storylines going in. This race at Atlanta will be a milestone race for brothers Kurt and Kyle Busch. Kurt Busch making his 650th start and Kyle Busch making his 500th start in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The biggest headline going in had to be Brad Keselowski, actually. Brad Keselowski came down with a pretty nasty stomach flu in the days prior to the race, and it got so bad that Austin Cindric actually ran laps for him in final practice. Brad did end up running a few towards the later stages of the session, but there was a lot of uncertainty going into Sunday's race. Starting from the pole was Aric Almirola. This was his first pole since 2012 in the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte. This was his second pole ever, actually.
The Atlanta race was pretty uneventful compared to Daytona, but Kyle Larson won Stage 1. He led the most laps the entire race, but a speeding penalty on pit road cost him the win.
Stage 2 went to actually your pick to win the race, Kevin Harvick. He led the second most laps in the race with 45, and if I had to say who the race should have went to, it was between Kyle Larson and Kevin Harvick. Harvick ended up actually finishing 4th in this race.
But he really dominated last season in Atlanta, and that was one of the reasons why I chose him. And he showed the same dominance that he had in Daytona and Atlanta this week, and he just couldn't pull it out. In Daytona, the wrecks kind of were taking out notable drivers left and right. But in Atlanta, it was really only Kyle Busch that was having issues.
Kyle Busch, who was already having a tough day, starting from the rear of the field due to a crash in practice, ended up having honestly a pretty solid day. He worked his way back up into the top 10, but ultimately on lap 228, he cut another tire and went into the wall, pushing him further back in the field. But Kyle Busch did end up rebounding and finishing 6th in this race.
The other caution was caused by BJ McLeod, who overshot his pit stall and stopped in the middle of the pit road. And Ryan Preece, as you could see in the helmet cam, looked down at his tachometer for a split second, and they crashed into each other. This ended Ryan Preece's top 10 run throughout the entire race. We saw this last week with pit road crashes. Do you think this is going to be a constant thing every race with these new rookies trying just to get on pit road and causing not stupid issues, but just like uncalled issues?
It's definitely something to be concerned about. I mean, 2 weeks in a row for BJ McLeod causing these incidents on pit road, that's really not what should be going on at this level of racing in the Cup Series. I mean, it's also not all his fault. Ryan Preece looked down for a split second, and that ended his day. He should have been paying attention. I know it's important to look at your tachometer, not to speed on pit road. It cost guys like Kyle Larson, Aric Almirola a shot at the win. But, I mean, when it all boils down to is you got to just make sure you get out of pit road in a timely manner and in a safe manner because, you know, he had a great top 10 day going for him, and this screwed him over.
The final restart came after the pit road incident, and Team Penske was the class of the field with all 3 cars in the top 5. We talked earlier in the show about the new race packages and tires shouldn't be going down as much, but in the final run, Brian Blaney's tire went down when he was leading, Joey Logano's tire was going down, and Daniel Hemrick, who had a really good run in the top 10 a lot throughout the race. A lot of tires failing. Why do you think that was causing it? They were supposed to be better and it was supposed to help, but it really, as you can tell, wasn't helping in the final run.
So we knew going in that Atlanta's a very abrasive track on tires and tire wear. Teams were given a very limited amount of tires going into the race, so we knew that tires would be an issue. So the limited tires combined with the track conditions, we knew that'd be a problem going in. With the laps winding down and all the madness of the tires going down, it ultimately came down to Martin Truex Jr. and Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski did end up leading those final 33 laps, but Truex really gave him a run for his money. He ran him down to, I believe, like 5/10 in that final lap. He actually said at the end of the race that he had the best car. He should have won the race. What do you think about that?
We've seen close finishes with Martin Truex Jr. before, like Denny Hamlin in the 2016 Daytona 500, where he just chases him down, but there's always that one car that beats him out in the end. I totally believe that Martin Truex Jr. probably did have the better car, but honestly, in NASCAR, it always comes down to who makes the last move and the better move in the last couple laps, and Brad Keselowski made the best move, and he won the race. Like as we spoke earlier in the show, Kyle Larson led a race high of 142 laps and won Stage 1, but a speeding penalty on 224 cost him the race. A stat that we figured out was he's 1-11 when leading 100 laps or more. Do you think that's going to be a constant thing for Kyle Larson, or this season he's actually going to change that and maybe pull out a win once he leads 100 laps or more? Because he dominates the race and then he just has mistakes that just cost him the race. Do you think that's going to be a constant thing?
It'll be really interesting to see because that's been a common denominator in his entire career in the Cup Series is that he will lead all these laps and be up there, but he can't close. And you hope that he can resolve this issue soon, hopefully this season. But I don't know, you've seen it so many times. Maybe he'll learn, maybe he won't, but only time will tell.
I think he will learn. I think he's getting smarter over time throughout his Cup Series time. And I think that he's learning from his mistakes. And this is only his 5th season overall in the Cup Series, so he's still learning, he's still processing everything, and that, yes, some veterans are beating him out, but they've been longer in the sport, and they've learned better tracks, and they just know it better. But I feel like Kyle Larson, once he just gradually keeps getting better and learning, he will change that all around and win some couple more races.
He even got some praise from race winner Brad Keselowski. In a little vlog he made, he actually said that if he were to create BK Racing over again, he would actually hire Kyle Larson, which I thought was pretty interesting.
He's an aggressive driver. He has some new moves that not veteran drivers have seen, and it works out for his advantage, but then just mistakes just don't work out for him in the end.
He has great personality too. Really great guy.
Also, recently on Twitter, he talked about Hendrick Motorsports, how they follow the rules in the beginning of the season, but then NASCAR lets them tamper the rules, I guess, in a sense, at the end of the season. Do you think with the new rule packages, NASCAR is going to be more firm and not let, I guess, Hendrick Motorsports cheat? I never thought they did, but I guess Kyle Larson thinks different.
Real quick, this is really not smart on Kyle Larson's part because Chip Ganassi Racing gets their engines from Hendrick Motorsports, so it's not really something you want to say. And he said he was joking and all that, but I mean, it's not that great of a joke from someone who supplies you engines. I do think with this new the new rules NASCAR handed down, there's going to be no room for cheating. So even if they did cheat in years past, I think that there will be no exceptions this year. So
yeah, I never saw Hendrick Motorsports as a cheating race team. They never really had any races encumbered or any teams have post-race inspection problems. So I don't know where Kyle Larson, and like you said, it may have been a joke in a sense, but don't go put that out on social media because people are going to take that the wrong way. People are going to see it. And like you said, he got in trouble for it. So I totally agree how he got in trouble with it. Because if it was a joke, just keep that to yourself. Don't go put things on social media because people are going to think that you're not joking and that they're going to take it literal.
And it's kind of like falseness in a sense because Hendrick Motorsports is not what it was in years past. Like they've really gone down performance-wise. They are not getting those 7-8 wins a season now. It usually is coming in 2s or 3s, you know. So a bold statement to make, and it's honestly I don't think it's really accurate.
No, he shouldn't have made the comment at all. This was a huge win for Brad Keselowski. Prior to the race, he had the flu and lost 6 pounds in 10 hours. This wasn't the first time we've seen Brad come over adversity. Like, similar, he broke his leg at a road to Atlanta 4 days prior to Pocono in 2011 and also won that race.
This was Brad's 60th win in Penske equipment, making him the winningest driver in Penske history, beating out the great Mark Donohue. Brad's actually going to be paying tribute to Mark Donohue in the race at Vegas with a helmet that Mark Donohue wore, actually. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's amazing, but another big story for Brad was he had the flu and he had 2 IVs stuck into him before the race. No one knew that he was going to race. I saw on Twitter that he said if the race was on Saturday, there was no way he could have raced. This is a big win for Penske, for Brad, and I know drivers in the past have had problems with health, like Casey Kane, where he had to stop racing completely. Do you think this is going to be a constant issue for Brad, or was just like a flu and he basically got over it and beat the flu, beat the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and beat the entire field?
I think it's just a little stomach flu that'll pass. It's going around. You hear it all over the news now. It's going throughout the garage area. So I don't expect to see it again, but it was really incredible to see Brad capitalize on that. I really think that Brad is being discredited as a driver, along with Paul Wolfe as a crew chief. These two guys, they're one of the best pairings, in my opinion, in NASCAR history. I mean, you look back at all these wins that came down to fuel mileage finishes or strategical gameplay, and they always seem to capitalize, or they're always in contention for the win in those strategical races. Sixth all-time amongst active drivers with wins with 28. What are your thoughts on Brad Keselowski?
Brad is a force to be reckoned with. He's a 2012 NASCAR champion. Only a couple people can only do that. But I just feel like Brad Keselowski, this is going to be a really good year for him. It's been 7 years since he's won a championship, but I feel like maybe with this pairing, like you said, with Paul Wolfe, but if they keep working together like they have been the past couple years and already this year, I think this can be maybe a championship caliber season for them. They're always in the running, they're always in the playoffs, but it always seems like a Final 8 or Final 4 race causes them the championship. But I feel like maybe that this season, with their veteran working together, that it may cause them to have another championship season.
I agree 100%. Brad's a really consistent driver. Like you said, he's always up there for contention and wins, always up there in the playoffs. And I really think it's about time that he gets the credit he deserves. He got a really bad rap with the whole Carl Edwards incident, which, in my opinion, was all one-sided from Carl Edwards. He's quite frankly on track for a Hall of Fame career, especially with this win for Team Penske. So I really hope that he can keep it up. It'd be great to see him get a few more championships here and there. And I think you're right. I think this is going to be a great season for that two team.
Looking ahead to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Kevin Harvick won in Vegas last year in the spring. That was continuing his 3-win streak. Like you said earlier, this might be the first time the package will technically be introduced for the first time.
The white flag is out, so we're going to give our picks for the winner of the Pennzoil 400 in Las Vegas.
What are your picks for Las Vegas?
My pick to win this race at Las Vegas is actually the winner at Atlanta, Brad Keselowski. He has a great track record at Las Vegas. Average finish of 13th. Finished 6th in the spring last season, and he actually won the playoff race there. That's for Brad Keselowski. I think that we will see another 2-race win streak to start the season.
My pick for Las Vegas is Las Vegas native Kyle Busch. He finished in the spring, he finished 2nd, and in the playoffs he finished 7th. He averages 12th place overall. Kyle Busch has kind of had a rough start with Atlanta hitting the wall, and he rebounds, and he caught in some accidents in Daytona and rebounded also, but I think that this is going to be the start of the season for Kyle Busch in a sense. This might be, he usually does really good in Vegas, so all those past troubles with tires and everything, I think he's got to put behind him and just race like he usually does in Vegas.
That's all we have for you today. My name is Cole Cusimano.
And I'm Ashlyn Register. Have a great day.